Now joining us via Zoom to discuss this controversial comment and statement by General Ibrahim Babangida. Further is a political analyst, Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu. Good evening and thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
All right, I don't know if you can hear us, but I can barely hear you. All right, let's hear you.
Hello, I'm not hearing you.
Okay, I can hear you now. All right, General Babangida has now expressed regret for annulling the 1993 election. That's about 25 years later at the launch of his autobiography. So in your analysis, does this expression of regret hold any significant political weight at this point in Nigeria's history?
Thank you very much. I want to salute the courage of the former president to have come out at this point in time to tell his own side of the story. I want to start with a premise, and that premise is a quotation that is notable that he has ever uttered. And he said that posterity will forgive you for taking a wrong decision, but posterity will not forgive you for not taking any decision at all. So for me, I think what he has done is an exhibition of his conviction, which is the fact that he needed to take full responsibility and he needed to apologize to Nigerians and those persons that the annulment of June 12 affected negatively. So for me, as he said, we have a lot of lessons to learn from what happened under his watch since the day he stepped aside up to today that he decided to launch his autobiography with a public presentation in Abuja. I commend his effort. I know that for every autobiography is a 50-50 reflection of reality. The untold stories that he will never tell anybody, not even his wife, not even his children. He will prefer to die with those information and the information that he decided to present to the public. And I like what the former president said. That is a President Olusegun Obasanjo. That the book has been presented to the public. Others will praise the book. Others will agree with him in part. Others will lambast the book. So some of us have not had the opportunity to go through the book. I'm sure the weeks ahead will be very interesting.
Indeed, truly interesting. Now, the June 12th annulment is often cited as a pivotal moment in Nigeria's political development. So with the General Babangida taking responsibility, albeit belatedly, what lessons should contemporary Nigerian politicians and the electorate draw from this event? And how can this historical moment inform perhaps current efforts to strengthen democratic institutions and ensure free and fair elections come 2027?
You see, one of the qualities of a leader is to accept whenever things go wrong, that it is a mistake, whether it is committed by the subordinate or by the leader himself. The other thing is when you are praised, you accept it in good measure and in good stride. But we have a problem in this country, and that is why we are not getting anything wrong. We're not getting things right. I beg your pardon. Leaders prefer to die with the valuable lessons that the younger generation supposed to learn from, and for him to have come out almost 30-something years later to say, I am sorry, that I accept full responsibility, I think it is something that is worth commending, because what we do in this nation is simple. When things go right and they praise the president, he accepts it and is happy about it. When it goes wrong, it is the devil or it is the subordinate or the minister or so. But in other places that we know, leadership is about humility. Nobody is perfect. In every leadership, there are bound to be mistakes. Now, the most important thing is acknowledging your mistake, standing by it, and offering apology where necessary, and then you can move on. But in our land and climb, everybody wants to be painted in the right stroke of the color or adjectives that are ennobling. The conqueror of Zuma Rock, the conqueror of Safari Africa, the great elephant. And when people look at you, they see some sort of contradictions. They saw things that you've done wrong. And that is why I started by his quotation to say that posterity will forgive us for taking wrong decisions because they would have learned valuable lessons from it. Nations that fail are nations that do not have any leader that they can learn from the leader's mistake. So even the president we're talking about, even Aliko Dangote made mention of the fact that he was the father of private sector in Nigeria. But researchers have shown that under his watch, there was massive corruption and abuse of office. And that goes with the kind of reform he was implementing, which is neoliberal reform. And neoliberal reform ought to go with anti-corruption crusade that will dissuade people from abusing Nigeria and Nigeria resources. So head or tail, as former President Olusegun Obasanjo said, you will hear ASU's perspective, you will hear Labour's perspective, because all of these stakeholders, just the way the private sector is praising him, I am very sure that public-oriented persons will lambast the former president for bringing Nigeria to its knees, because it was believed that it was under him that IMF World Bank took a hold on the jugular of Nigeria, and since then we've not recovered. Yeah, private sector is thriving, but again, what is the price to pay for that?
Here, I don't know if you're with me, but what should be the lesson that electorate should, get from this thing that happened, at that time during Abiola when this election was overturned? What do we learn from this? Apart from, I think you've stated what politicians can pick from, which is leadership. Of course, you get to acknowledge when you're wrong or right. But what about electorate? And what are the consequences of the trajectory of election?
You see, one of the things. Yes, I think the electorate in Nigeria have learned a very valuable lesson from what happened during the June 12th. June 12th polarized Nigerians along a religious line that has been there right from a colonial period and up to that very particular moment. And it was more or less like Nigerians were not united at that point in time. So it became more or less like June 12th struggle really was more or less like a Yoruba struggle against the majority of Northerners who supported the annulment, and those that are against it that equally allied themselves with the majority Yoruba actors that were fighting for the restoration. I think from that very particular moment up to today, there was a valuable lesson, and that was why power shifted from the north to the southwest in 1999 when there was a transition, and General Olusegun Obasanjo became a beneficiary of the annulment of June 12th, because it's not as if he was the most popular candidate from the southwest, but Nigerians endorsed him, and he became the adopted candidate to assuage that very particular fray nerves that continue to agitate for June 12th. And that was why he became the president. And if you look at it critically, what Nigerians are doing is they vote and they unite to demand for accountability and ensure that the person that wins the election is declared as the winner. And I'm sure even the current president benefited from that very particular legacy of what happened during June 12th, because those that even led the squad to ensure that he became victorious, even in the north, northern, and so it was not more or less like north versus south as we witnessed. So the constitution made it like that, but in practice, it has always been people voting along the ethno-religious line. I think that is really becoming narrower now. Okay. If you look at it critically, even the candidate for Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, won some state in northern Nigeria. And, this is unprecedented. And if you look at it, there was no clear-cut winning to say that because Atiku is from the north, he contested and he won overwhelmingly in the north. No, everybody won based on their strength. I think it's a good development.
Yes, indeed, it's all about the strength. I hope we get to see a more democratic election being done, and people's choice gets to be seen and replicated in the result. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Dr. Abdurrahman Abuham. It's always a pleasure.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you.